Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
I'm your host, The Road Dog, with none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, Karl Bryan, on a somber episode of BCS, my friend. How you holding up, Shades?
I'm holding up okay, buddy. I'm holding up okay. I'm a bit nervous about this, bud, because I know exactly what your first question's going to be. But yeah.
Well, yeah. So why don't you just tell us, for those that are not as part of the family, tell us what's going on, Shoots. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, my business partner of 17 years passed away, and I love the guy. Oh, shoots. But anyway, so you know what? But like I said, he was Mr. The show goes on, so the show was going to go on. But yeah, he's my business partner for 17 years, man. We literally in 17 years never had a heated conversation, and he was my business partner, but he was my friend. He was my big brother, all kind of wrapped into one. And he just really was a special guy, man. He was a very special guy, as you well and truly know. So
the zig to your zag, the yin to your yang, the whatever we were just talking about it. How, for those listening, listen, like Karl and I are very, very much alike. And we need guys like an Adrian Ulsh in our lives because they keep the chaos sort of organized. And by the chaos, I mean Karl. So listen, a bit of a tribute here. And I really want to just ask you, and you know what's going to be, what are your biggest lessons that you learned from the late, great, so odd to say that, the late, great Adrian Ulsh?
Yeah, that doesn't sound very good. I don't like the sound of it, buddy. Oh, I'm sorry, man. I got to keep my act together here. Okay, so first of all, ironically enough, you intro me as the man, the myth, the legend. But you know who the man, the myth, the legend is? Like when I introduce him on stage, that is exactly how I do it. Anybody in our community who knows him, he needs no introduction. He really is he just is it's hard to, just when you meet a guy like that, very introverted, very to himself, very behind the scenes kind of thing. But when he says something, it was impactful, it was meaningful, and quite frankly, it was magic. So he's the man, the myth, the legend. And by the way, when he would introduce me, often he would introduce me as his as the Steve Jobs to his Wozniak, which, by the way, I'm not gonna lie, I loved it. Don't want to endorse that because frankly, I don't agree. But anyway, so there is no doubt that was a pretty good way of kind of describing us. And I would dare say that those that did know us would back that, as like a frame, not calling me Steve Jobs, but the dynamic of Jobs and Wozniak. But anyway, so he was look, what did he teach me, Shoots? And again, I knew this one was coming. But I just look family first, and to him, though, family is more than blood. It includes our clients. It includes our staff. It's just all the people that he cared for. Adrian was the ultimate family man. And if you knew his family and how close his family was, like it was literally a weapon. It is a weapon of closeness. Like Chris Kling, he's worked for us for 12 years and he is just rock star of a human being, solid as a rock, very stoic. If you know him, I call him, I pretend like he's 6'7". He's actually 6'5", but I always say that he's 6'7" just to get to tease him. And he's a towering dude with a very cool beard. He's actually got himself a bit of a haircut. He's looking very stylish nowadays when we do our Zoom calls. But anyways, that's his son-in-law. And his son, who I call Big Al, he actually worked for us for a decade. He's gone on to do incredible, incredible things and building a wonderful construction company. And by the way, he'll tell you that, how did he do it? Why did he do it? Or, how did he do it? He follows the framework, the operating system that we install, and it's working masterfully. So good on him, Big Al. I tell you, Adrian was loyal to a fault. One of the things he would always say, again, he ran hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Ask the Expert calls over the years. Goya, get off your butt. Don't want to swear shits. But anyway, so he would say that, and he would say that because at the end of the day, he's just like, stop hiding behind the computer, staring at the phone and experiencing pain. By the way, those are my words versus his, but that was the message, right? But he just, get off your butt and go damn well do it. He was also ridiculously frugal. What do they say? Not wanting something is as powerful or better than having it. He was famously frugal, maybe to a fault, by the way. But it's not what you make, it's what you keep in business. And, all my favorite sayings that I've said many a times, but if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. If you don't know where you're going, everything looks like an opportunity. You can get lucky and make it, but you most certainly cannot get lucky and keep it. Things like, pros versus amateurs. Like pros think of what could go wrong, while an amateur is thinking about what could go right and getting real, pumped up on hopium. That's not what the pros are doing. Warren Buffett doesn't walk into a board meeting all pumped up on hopium. He's looking at data. He's very stoic. Adrian just oozed that. Amateurs want to make it and pros want to keep it. Just Adrian was a professional in every sense of the word. He didn't have goals. He had standards. And what he would say, create standards for yourself. And again, I feel kind of lame right now, but I really love the dude. Anyways, another thing he would say is repeat, 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 like the same stories over and over and over again. It tends to be more impactful than like a different story every single time. And again, I would dare say the professionals say the same thing over and over and over again. That's Tony Robbins 101. Whereas the amateur is trying to come up with a new story every time, right? And wondering why it's not working. Like repetition is the mother of skill. So he's going to say to you, build your stories and repeat them, perfect them. And then don't just perfect them in the mirror. No, perfect them with results, perfect them with clients, perfect them with money as your measuring stick, right? One of his favorite sayings was, what does your prospect have that they don't want? And what does your prospect want that they don't have? Right? I say that right? Like, what does your prospect have that they don't want? And what does your prospect want that they don't have? Right? So again, it's a higher level frame, right? And also, this is the studying versus training is kind of what I have always said, but at the end of the day, that was like his MO, right? Like studying is, buying the course, doing the course, reading the book, etc. But training is doing it over and over and over and over and over again. So again, get that story and repeat it and repeat it. It's not the 10,000 hour rule, right? I think that's been pretty much proven. It's the 10,000 iterations, right? Repeat, repeat, repeat. He was also Mr. Consistency, right? Like 10 events over 10 weeks, 10 emails over 10 days, 10 calls before 10, just bloody start. And then he'd definitely throw in Goya, right? Just get off your butt and damn well do it. Because again, you want to if you want to build a great company, you want to build a great product, right? Just what he did and what we did. And again, him being the railroad track significantly more than me. Keep building and improving. Consistency and focus over talent all day long and twice on Sunday. And then, of course, hard work. Honestly, anybody who knows him will tell you that he's the hardest working man you've ever met. I've often said, like Alex Hormozy, you watch any messaging, people love a hard worker. Think about, your favorite football, when you were playing football, when you were playing baseball, when you're playing hockey, when you're playing soccer, whatever. So whatever sport, you really, really admired somebody that put in the hard work, the hard yards, right? So at Alex Hormozy, if you look at his messaging, you look at him on Twitter or X or, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, etc. He's always talking about how hard he is working. And then like his wife, Lila, when she wished him happy birthday, guess what she said? Happy birthday to the hardest working man that I know, right? Like it's lit. And by the way, is it true? Is it not true? I'm not saying it's true or it's not true. What I know is that what he does is he puts himself out there as not the smartest man, not the most brilliant man, but the hardest working man. And Adrian was the hardest working man I've ever met. He was absolutely unbelievable. And again, which that led to be fast, right? Fast to ship, fast to implement, fast to decide, fast to respond, fast to build something new. I would come up with an idea in the morning. I would have an email with basically the game plan outlined, right? Um, One thing I can't, Adrian, when I think of him, temperament, it was like his superpower. And by the way, the really good news, if you look at Warren Buffett and you look at, Charlie Munger and some of the greats of the business world, that's their superpower. And it was most definitely Adrian's superpower. He just, don't be emotional in business. He kept me in check literally hundreds of times. Like I said, we've never had literally never 17 years. Who can say that? Never had a heated conversation, right? Much more him than me, to be very, very clear. But he was just so stoic. He was just his temperament was just fabulous, right? Just never got knocked off, including during the last 3 years as his health was declining. It's just, he just kept it, man. It's so admirable. Just such just a force of nature. The end. But anyway, so again, don't, you know what I mean? His temperament. So my question for you is, what's your temperament? What's he saying if he's here? He's like, look, just don't get too up, don't get too down, right? Again, Warren Buffett doesn't walk into a boardroom all hopped up on opium, right? He walks in there with data and very stoic. And I think that might be the right way. Is your example, your client cancels and you don't think they should be canceling. Where does your blood pressure go to? Does it go up? Do you get them? And at the end of the day, handle it very you know what I mean? Handle it very professionally. Keep your temperament, and I can tell you that your chances of keeping that client and getting them back on board significantly greater. And how do you get there? Like I think as a saying, readers are leaders, right? Does that sound right? Like he was obsessed with learning. And it wasn't because he just wanted to learn, although he certainly did, but it was just about having a greater impact on families, having a greater impact on our you know what I mean, on our clients, having a greater impact on our staff, having a greater impact on our network, right? Because again, it's not just about our clients, but again, this podcast, daily email goes to 100,000 people. And by the way, I tell you, somebody, guess who read my email every single day? And let me tell you, he would say in his very kind, stoic, ridiculously cool temperament way that that my joke was a little bit off color today. And if I get any, blowback, to handle it with, the utmost respect. Well, you know what I'm saying, right? Like, so anyways, but he read that sucker, but it's not just about impacting, clients and staff. It's about impacting the community, the business coaching industry. That's what we, again, set out to do 17 years ago. Like I said, we literally pioneered, software for the entire, nobody had business coaching software before we had it, right? We literally pioneered the thing. Anyway, so and again, he was always sending me, like, he would read like an awesome article, and he would send that off to me. He loved Perry Marshall as an example. He thought Perry was a stud. Rich Harshaw thought he was a total stud. Anyway, but yeah, shoots. What did I say? Like, just people who are reading a lot are going to be leading a lot. I just think that's that's a good frame. I'll also tell you this, that okay, I don't know how to say this, but like average people, okay, are multitasking. Great people are focusing, but legendary people eliminate everything that not is their one core thing, right? So think Michael Jordan. Don't think Michael Jordan in the Gatorade days. Think of Michael Jordan on the way up. Think of Kobe Bryant on the way up, frankly, right until the end. Think of Mike Tyson up until, he lost it, he lost his edge once he started getting pulled into the extracurricular activities. But at the end of the day, you don't become Mike Tyson or Kobe or Michael Jordan by not by not dialing in 100% on your core thing. Like that's the way you get there. For you, what is that? That is your local live event once a week on Tuesday at the Chamber of Commerce. Or for you, that is lead generation through social media. For you, that is lead generation to get new prospects, to move them towards being clients, right? Just your one thing is to get, if you get 20 clients at $2,000 a month, that is 480 grand a year with like 80% margins. Okay. You're the top 1% in the world, right? And to say that, like, so Karl, can I do that? And the answer is absolutely you can do that. But what do most people do? They don't follow Adrian's principle of Goya, and they hide behind the computer. They stare at the phone and experience pain, right? And by the way, you got to look like an idiot in order to get to that level that you want to get to, right? Like your next level is going to require you to let go of the last level. What do people not want to do? They don't want to let go, right? Adrian, he had zero interest in staying where he was at. He was just always growing, always learning, always pushing. Always pushing. Like we were brothers. We were business partners, but we were brothers. What's the magic of that? Brothers push each other. I pushed him, but he most certainly pushed me. And that is the way you really make progress. Look, family, sometimes you refer to it as a family. The truth is that a brother has got in my opinion, got a slightly different meaning in that, that's the guy that's going to punch you in the nose when you get out of line. Right. And by the way, that is a he never did that. But you know what I mean? That is a beautiful thing. But the one thing, Adrian, he would never let us get distracted with new. To say he never let us get distracted with new and next would actually be incorrect because I am a new and next guy. And some of my ideas I think were fabulous and they've really, really paid off. But I can also tell you I've come to him with some really boneheaded ideas that he, allowed to slip through the cracks and said, okay, partner, if you think this is going to work, let's do it. But what he would do is he kept us on the railroad tracks, right? Like profit acceleration software, the profit acceleration simulator, our academy, and just making sure that we were constantly increasing utility for our clients. And most importantly, their clients, right? At the end of the day, it's the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, the small business owner that really needs to be winning. And that one thing for us, profit's the domino that knocks over all the other dominoes, right? So we built all our tools, our resources, our programs, our softwares dialed in on what? Profit, our one core thing. What do we call it? Profit acceleration. Because again, focus is eliminating distractions more than it is focusing, right? So no is a decision, yes is a responsibility. He didn't say no to me, to be fair. You know what he did? He just didn't say anything, right? Because he's very introverted, very stoic individual. And I had that awkward pause that I put into my daily emails. When I got the awkward pause, I knew that, that might be harebrained. But what he did, he kept us dial in, because focus again is about eliminating distractions more than it is focus. Adrian was a wildly focused individual, and nothing was ever a problem, right? Like, what did you like? People, as they move on in life, okay, and they become more successful and things start to look after themselves, they have less problems, right? Well, rather than have less problems, what they do is they broaden quote unquote problems, like in terms of the criteria. So then they end up with the same number, right? Why? Because that's where they're comfortable, right? The truth is the ultimate addiction in this world, it's not sugar, it's certainly not cocaine and all that sort of stuff. It's problems. People love their problems and they don't want to give them away. Remember, to go to the next level, you must move away from the old level. Guess what you don't want to do? Guess what they don't want to do? Guess what the butcher, baker, candlestick maker doesn't want to do? They don't want to move away from their problems, right? Why? They're addicted to the damn things. And by the way, I can also put level of anxiety there, right? In some cases, that's depression. They're just literally, depression is a fixation with yourself, right? And that is not to diminish the reality of depression. It's absolutely a real thing. That's not what I'm saying. But I can tell you, if you introduce me to a very depressed person, I'm going to introduce you to somebody who is very fixated on themselves, not because they're selfish, but that's the nature of depression, right? So anyway, so maybe level. This is about Adrian here. I don't know. Adrian, he wasn't a man who had a lot of problems, and he wasn't a man who had, a high level of anxiety at any. I can't think of an instance, in fact, in 17 years where I could say that, Adrian's really anxious, including, getting on stage and all that sort of stuff, which he was magic on stage, very, very introverted one-to-one, but he got on stage and you ask anybody that saw him, he was just magic. And he was amazing on stage, and we've all seen an amazing speaker. But the difference is because he was so stoic and so quiet and so introverted that when he got on stage, everybody was like, "What in the world? Like, what is going on right now?" Just the most fabulous man. But I look, the biggest thing by a country mile. Again, just Adrian. He's here helping. What would he be saying? What would he be doing? The biggest thing from a country mile, he would say that if the shoes were swapped, and this was him doing, kind of a tribute podcast to me. It's the operating system that we created that can be installed for any business owner. That is the magic. That's his legacy. That's the thing, right? It's all based on math. He was an engineer, so he saw things in a very insanely systemized way, significantly better than I ever will. But we have, again, we have the Jumpstart 12. It's 12 areas dialed in, the absolute fundamentals, which then segue into the Deep Dive 40, which is clearly a deeper dive. But like if you have a company that did $500,000 gross revenues, 10% net, and then you increase the 12 areas by 2%. Okay, so they got $50,000 of earnings. So depending upon where they live, they're in California, they're on food stamps. Well, you go and improve those 12 areas by 2%, you end up with $73,000 in newfound profit, right? 5% in the 12 areas, you got $213,000 in newfound profit. 10% in all 12 areas, a company with $50,000 of earnings will then be getting an extra $538,000 in newfound profit, right? So again, that is the real magic. That is, kind of the breakthrough. That's that is the magic. And how we got there, him staying focused, him keeping me focused, literally named the company focus.com, right? Eliminating distractions and, just helping coaches, and then how we're helping coaches help their clients. And that's kind of like a 3-level process. And that's what we were dialed in on. That's what he was dialed in on. But he would say that if I'm going to leave anything, I want to leave this. And again, he would say the same thing about me, is what I'm trying to say here. So, okay, it shoots in closing, right? So he just Mr. Realist, right? Mr. Can you stop with the conquering the world and the $50 million valuation? And can we just go and get your first coaching client so that we can get your third coaching client, so that we can get you your 10th coaching client, so you can get your 25th coaching client, right? But all these coaches, no, sorry, I don't. Like, there's a lot of people, I think, in the coaching consulting industry, and they want to go to $5 to $25 million companies, right? What do they say? They go, I don't want to work with newbies, right? Well, the whole market is newbies, right? Like 80% of businesses fail, almost instantaneously. So everybody's a newbie, and bad news starting with you, right? So like 96% of the market don't get to $1 million in gross revenues. Okay, translation. You want to go to the fat middle. Why would you want to go to the 4% and then not go to the 96%? And by the way, there are nuances, and maybe there's some reasons why you want to do that, because you're semi-retired, you only want 4 clients, and you're going to be charging $5 to $25,000 a month, as in, big numbers. And then you only want a few clients and you're doing fractional work, and that's great, right? But if you want to scale or you want to grow, like, I would encourage you to be thinking about going to the fat middle. He's encouraging you to go to the fat middle, right? Coaches that support $25 million companies, they have, 2 to 4 clients, and then they have concentration risk, right? Translation, they lose 1 or 2 clients and their revenue halves. Right? Why not have 20 clients at $2,000 a month, 480 grand a year? You lose 2 clients, and guess what? You don't even notice, right? And have 200 clients, and it's even sexier doing group coaching, which is why we built group coaching software, right? To support our higher level folks. But if you want to scale, you want to make it easy for yourself, or you want to scale, you want to go to the fat middle, right? So like, look, B2C companies will always be bigger than B2B companies. Why? It's just a larger marketplace, right? Like 5% of the population start a company. So that means as soon as you go B2B, you're only going to 5% of the company and missing out on 95% of it, right? It's math. All things in business, frankly, all things in life, debatably, but really they're all rooted in math, right? 95% of coaches are fighting over the same 5% market and then wondering why it's not working, right? Why they don't want to work with newbies. That's a little bit crazy. So shoots, that's and again, so a lot of anyway, that's look, Adrian Ulsh, man, just a force of nature, the most unbelievable human being. I miss him so much already. It's just insane. But again, this was a 3-year battle. He was literally a medical miracle for, lasting as long as we did. Those aren't my words. Those are the words of the doctors and the nurses looking after him. He just kept hanging on, hanging on. In fact, this what his son said to me is that basically he was hanging on, but what was happening is he was now resting. He worked out that it was actually a lot of fun and he was really enjoying it. So we were having a little bit of Big Al and I were going back and forth via text and but anyway, so if a prayer for Adrian Ulsh would be my only request. And of course for his wonderful family, his beautiful wife Peggy, who he's been with since they were, teenagers. Chris Kling, who's worked for us for 12 years and just an absolute legend. I love him, love him, love him. Big Al, who I've mentioned a couple of times, and his entire his family. He's got an amazing family, and again, a family that's one of those things that you don't get given, you earn. And he has earned himself a wonderful, 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 amazing family, which I'd like to think includes me. And that's all I got. Shoots. How'd I do? Oh.
Well, you made it through. So this is good. I know it's a tough one for you. So let's step back a bit and in honor of Adrian, let's take a look at I guess from a practical business standpoint. If Adrian Ulsh was helping a landscaping company, let's pick landscapers today. What would he do?
What would he do? Shit. That's a good question. Okay. Let me channel my inner Adrian Ulsh, which I will do gladly. Look, let me tell you, with 100% certainty, he's going to follow our operating system and install it. Like that's what I kind of said that a minute ago. Look, he's going to go to the Jumpstart 12, as in the 12 core areas, and he's not going to look for magic pills. He's not going to look to revolutionize anything. He's not going to want big expenditures. He's not going to want new staff members, and he's not going to want new training with what he implements. Why? That'll create friction and stop it from happening. And he just wants results, and Adrian Ulsh was Mr. Results, right? So he wants to get, let's just call it I said earlier, like a 5% bump in each area. Why? Because he wants to create a sexy P&L. He wants to put money in bank accounts. So what he was masterful at, and I kind of said it earlier with like Goya, but he'd keep them out of the weeds, right? He would say to the client, I know you got relationship problems. I know you got staffing issues. I know you got these other challenges, but give me 90 days, okay, to do it my way, as in the Jumpstart 12 and dialing this in. And if it's not working at that stage, look, uncle, and we'll do it your way and we'll make that work as well, right? So he just start, okay, so one of the ways he would start, okay, so if you go to you go into my software, go into our software, you go into the software, what you're going to see is controlling costs right up at the top, right? So he's going to look for a small percentage win there. How's he going to do that? Controlling and cutting costs. He's going to get them to audit their cell phone, audit their insurance, audit their suppliers, look for ways to save on gas. It's a landscaping company. I could only assume there's a lot of gas. He could decrease travel time. He could decrease, like buy bulk, bulk fuel, right? Is that that's like, I'm sure that's a thing, right? Like farmers are doing it all the time. They could do it. I'm assuming that, they're doing some numbers, audit service contracts, asked to, negotiate better rates, or maybe what they're going to do is a price per job versus an hourly crew, right? So instead of an hourly wage or a wage, what they're going to do is you're going to get a price per job, right? What's going to happen? Workers going to work faster. They're going to provide better service. So I don't like there. He's going to find a way to shave 2 to 5% off their current expenses. And by the way, it's just so easy to do, right? And by the way, if they're regularly buying like equipment, going to look to find a way to buy it reconditioned or repossessed mowers, right? Or equipment. Go to auctions versus buying off the shelf. And as I say that, you're like, well, of course they would do that. Well, no, let me tell you, I don't need to meet them to know that they're buying the new lawnmower, right? Why? You bloody tell me, but I can tell you it doesn't make. And by the way, maybe the new lawnmower is a little bit better. There is a debate to say if a lawnmower is 20 years old, it's going to be significantly better than anything you can get off the shelf. Let's not go there. But at the end of the day, it's going to try and eliminate some expenses or control some expenses. They got a magazine subscription. They've had it for 5 years. What you do when you're controlling costs, you ask 2 questions. 2 rules of business. Does it get a client? Does it keep a client? Does it get a client? Does it keep a client? Does it get a client? Does it keep a client? Right. And he's going to do that. Or maybe he's going to go outside the box and like eliminate dump fees by like creating mulch on site, right? Like clients often love free mulch, right? Or you're going to partner with a local farmer and they're going to say, hey, I've got a bunch of mulch and I'm doing all this landscaping. I'm doing all this cleaning up. If you want to go and pick it up, you pick it up. But you get to keep it, right? So they're going to then get the mulch for free, depending upon where you're at, and of course the busyness of these guys. But these are ways. What we're doing is we are going to their expenses on their P&L or their credit card statement, or just off the top of their head, and we're trying to find ways to shave some costs. Again, 5% in 12 areas. You're looking at like something like $213,000 of extra profit on a company with $50,000 of earnings, right? Okay, so that's nothing revolutionary there. Pretty straightforward. Anybody could do it. And then he would go to market dominating position was, he loved it, as do I, and frankly, so should you. But simply what we're trying to do, you don't want to be the best, you want to be the only. Certainly they should be the best, but it's more important to be the only or work to be the only than being the best. So on time, on budget, on time, every time. What's one I had? We mow, blow, and go. Maybe not that one, but I don't know, set it and forget it landscaping. Is that a thing? I think I think that would have some sexiness to it, especially for the right personality type, right? Or maybe it's, what's a problem with your landscaping? It gets worse and worse and worse every year. And that's a bit of a pain in the neck and not exactly what you signed up for. So we could call it future-proof landscaping, right? Your yard looks better every year. I don't know. And then if they agree, we're going to get it on their calls. It's going to be in their voicemail. We're going to get it on their website. We're going to get it on their signage. We're going to get it in their email signature. We're going to leave a sign on each job site, right in front of the house where we're working on it. And it's going to have our details, right? Or maybe it's the only landscaper that pays you in mulch. Right? Is that lame? Is that amazing? I don't know. It's going to depend on the individual landscaper, but no doubt that's probably going to get a little bit of attention, right? Your mess becomes our mulch. I don't know. Market dominating position. The bottom line is on time, on budget, on time, every time. Set it and forget it. Actually, I kind of like that. That could work. At the end of the day, market dominating position, and then we got to implement it. What do? They come up with the idea and then they keep it a secret. It doesn't go on the business card. It doesn't go on the website. It doesn't become part of their script. The salespeople and the staff don't even bloody know it. No good. We gotta get everybody on board. How much is that going to cost? Everything I said here, that is negligible on steroids. It's going to cost next to nothing, right? And then we're going to go and we're going to create a compelling offer. What's a compelling offer? Look, you could come up with all kinds of crazy things. One off the top of my head, what I would say, like a good neighbor program, right? Like, what is a good neighbor program? So I knock, like, house number 6 buys the landscaping design, right? So they're going to buy. What they do is they knock on 5 doors to the left, 5 doors on the right, and then 10 across the street. What do they say? We're working on the Smiths. What do I say at number 6? If you would like us to do your lawn as well, we're willing to do it as a discount because our trucks are already here. So there's no extra, time, expense to get here, gas, etc. We're already going to be here. So if you would like to get us to do your lawn and your landscaping as well, Bingo, bango, bongo, right? So compelling offer. Come up with something compelling that makes them go, wow, I should really go for that, right? And then he would go to up, and all he's looking for, okay, all he's looking for here, is that amazing? No. Is that going to get them, is that going to improve their sales by 2, 5, potentially 10%? You don't need to do anything more than just that. And believe me, I don't need to meet the landscaping company that you're thinking about working with that's advertising locally to know that they don't have that program in place, right? Bingo, bango, bongo. If it works horribly, we get a 5% bump, right? And then we go up. So all I'm doing is jumpstart 12. I'm going to the fundamentals. This is exactly what McDonald's have in place. This is exactly what they should have in place. Upsell, landscaper. I don't know. Fertilizer, aeration, pest control, a maintenance plan for sure. I'll be, recurring revenue maintenance plan, but you're gonna upsell something along those lines, right? Cross sell again. We're gonna do a horrible job, and all we're looking for is a 2 to 5% bump, and it can look as sexy as $213,000 in newfound profit on a company with $50,000 of earnings, right? And then we got a cross sell. Do you want fries with that, right? So you're like upsell is, do you want me to supersize that? And then cross sell is, do you want fries with that? Outdoor furniture, plant packages, an irrigation system, right? Like, I don't know. Those are types of things that you could cross sell. And then we're going to do a horrible job and only get a 2 to 5% bump, and everything's going to be okay, right? But we do this simultaneously and we get a compounding effect of the numbers. That's profit acceleration, right? And then bundle. Okay, so now as a frame here, I'm creating a bundle. Okay, so this is your Happy Meal. What I'm looking for here is I want convenience, I want cost savings, and the cost savings come on quantity, remember, right? Like supersizing. So cost savings come on quantity, and then I want increased sales for the client, right? So what are we going to create? I don't know. Are they doing landscaping design? Are they doing lawn mowing? It depends on the individual client, what they're doing. Let's assume design. I don't know, landscape design, installation with custom landscape design plan. I don't know, that doesn't sound very smooth, but whatever. Well, we're going to install your plants, we're going to install your trees, we're going to put in the shrubs. It's also going to come with a patio walkway, right? That's going to be all constructed with stones or pavers. It's going to look fabulous, as well as, and importantly, outdoor lighting. Why are we going to provide you outdoor lighting? Because that's going to be safety, for the kids and people walking around the side of your house, and of course, nighttime ambience, right? So we're going to put together a bundle, and that's going to be 10 grand. That's going to be 25 grand, whereas they normally would only be spending significantly less than that. So that's where the savings come in quantity. And the convenience. They don't need to get 3 different people to come back 3 different times. And remember, a little bit like set it, forget it, or make it look better. It's going to look better every single year. That's kind of a frame. That's one of the frames that I would, if I'm going to open up a landscaping company, that's a pitch that I'm taking where it's going to look sexier. It's going to look better every year, right? Downsell. Okay, so they can't afford the 10, 20, $30,000, $50,000 full meal deal, but they want it, and you can see that they want it, and they have a legitimate house in a legitimate area that would be your ideal avatar, your client, right? Well, okay, so you're not ready to lock that in. Why don't we start with weekly lawn mowing, and then we'll move towards the landscaping design over time, right? No doubt that sounds like a good idea. And then what are you going to do? You're going to get the lawnmower on board if the owner isn't showing up in this instance, depending upon what that contract might look like. But the lawnmower is going to be paid a bonus to help complete the larger package sale, right? How does he do that? He builds a great relationship with the client. So think of him the way I used to teach it a long time ago, as a salesman in overalls. Okay, you might want to write that down. Salesman in overalls. Adrian would love everything about that. Salesman, in fact, I know he did, but salesman in overalls, right? So they're kind of, showing up with the clipboard to do the checking, but really what you're doing is, kind of getting together with the manager, he's signing it. And then you're like, what are your current needs? Where are you guys currently at? Are you growing? What stage are you at? What's the next piece of machinery that you would want? If this was, with your lawn, we can't go forward with the entire package, but tell me, what's the first thing that you would want solved? What's the first thing that you would want? Would you want the lighting? Would you want the irrigation? Would you want the pavers? Would you want the sidewalk done? Would you want XYZ done around the pool? Would you want the patio furniture? Right? What's the first thing you would do? Okay. Get the ball rolling, right? And by the way, always assign in the yard get approval, right? They're only going to go for it, right? You guys are there, you're working hard, you're doing a great job on their lawn. It looks lame. You see them, you're like, nobody would ever do that. Nobody would ever do that. Believe me, people walk by those signs and they do get deals done. They generate leads, right? But remember, hundreds of leads? No. But what we're looking for are 2 to 5% bumps here. We're not looking for revolutionary 50%, 100%, 1,000% gains. What we're looking for is little bumps. And believe me, that sign will provide the little bump. Associates, I don't know. So, look, let me do joint venture. Adrian loved joint venture, right? So again, I got a landscaping company. Who am I going to joint venture with? I don't know. Real estate, like a real estate agent and a mortgage broker. Feel obvious. A local nursery. It's got to be a garden center, maybe an event planner. Somebody selling outdoor furniture and barbecues. A property management company all day long. A home improvement store. You're going to have more luck with a smaller one than a bigger franchise type deal, but I'd be going there. I don't know. I'll stop there, shoot. And again, I don't know how many, that's maybe 6 areas. But note again, a 5% impact, easy to do. Everybody has to suck so badly to only get a 2% bump or a 5% bump. You've got to suck. Your client's got to suck. The staff have got to suck. The ideas that you come up with have to suck. And if everything does suck and you do implement and they do implement, they will get the 2 to 5% bump. And then what's going to happen? They get a little bit mojo. They go, my gosh, this is actually working. Wow. We've got, more money than month. That's exciting. So it works, and a $50,000 of earnings with a 5% bump in all 12 areas, $213,000. Thank you very much. You charge $2 to $5,000 a month as a business coach. You tell me if that is a good decision. Should they be investing in you or investing in Bitcoin? Should they be investing in you or investing in stocks? And then, by the way, imagine all 40 areas of the deep dive 40 with things like reactivation of old clients included. I mean, my gosh. You know what? Adrian wouldn't allow me to finish this without. So higher level thought shoots, right? So Adrian loved my he's like, oh, here we go again. Higher level thought, Karl, higher level thought. But like, what about if they build, and again, they're not going to do this tomorrow and Adrian would not be going here anytime, soon. But this is the kind of thing where, he would get to where they build the nursery, right? Why do they do that? They own the real estate. They build up the business of the nursery. What do? They sell the business in 5 years, keep the real estate. They got himself a tenant paying, $2,500, $5,000, $10,000 a month, depending upon whatever it's going to be, like, pretty decent rent, depending upon where it's at and the size of it, etc. But instant tenant, just add water, bingo, bango, bongo. Look, that's good. Or, keep the waste and turn it into mulch, right? Like, by the way, so when you're get a landscaping company, you're spending thousands of dollars a month in dump runs, right? So what could you do? You could take the waste, turn it into mulch, color the mulch. Okay, so make it black, make it brown, make it pink, make it pink mulch shoots. That might be a horrible idea. Might have just put us out of the mulch business shoots. But anyway, so I can only imagine Adrian here. Anyway, so colored mulch, you know what I mean? That a thing? Yes, it is a thing. But all of a sudden, what you're doing, it's like the wood mill making something out of a sawdust, which is normally going into the garbage, and now they're making product out of it that they can also profit where they were throwing it in the garbage. Free money on steroids. So I don't know. Colored mulch is where I'm going there. Good idea. But really, what I would impress upon you here, what Adrian would do. He would go to the Jumpstart 12. He would install the operating system. I know he knows the client's going to go into the weeds. He knows they're going to go into the weeds. The client, we all know they're going into the weeds. He would keep them on the railroad tracks. He would same message over and over and over again. He would have them dialed in, and he would walk them through the fundamentals of the Jumpstart 12 and our software. Which again, the fundamentals of business. If you're not using our software, I mean, it's not rocket science. But also what he would do, to be clear, he kind of would tease me about the high level thought, etc. But make no mistake about it, he would be moving the needle with his client, and he'd be coming up with really cool stuff and doing cool stuff, in terms of, you know what I mean? Like coming up with new and creative, awesome things for his client to be doing that they wouldn't have otherwise thought about without him. And in closing, again, Adrian's here. He's saying he's not gonna finish this podcast without saying this. The average business owner's got 10% net margins, right? Go to ChatGPT, go to Google, just go check it out, right? It's the average business owner, and let's say North America, for the argument, has got 10% net margins, okay? So if you lower their costs by 5.5%, it's auditing your insurance and their phone, blah, 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 blah. Does it get a client? Does it keep a client? Does it get a client? Does it keep a client? Does it get a client? Does it keep a client, right? So you lower their costs by 5.5% and then raise their, I didn't even say that, but like raise their fees by 5%. They instantly double their profits, right? And I realized, as somebody who might not be familiar with our stuff and whatnot, it sounds a little bit too good to be true, and it sounds a little bit too easy to actually work, but it is fact. And how do I know it's fact? It is rooted in math. It's not a matter of my opinion, Adrian's opinion, Road Dog's opinion, whether Road Dog thinks it's a great idea, I think it's a great idea, or Adrian thought it was amazing. Irrelevant. It's math. Right? Just like 80-20. 80-20, the magic of 80-20 is that it's rooted in math. I don't need to do the math in order to know the math, right? What is the math? That 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your clients, that 80% of the utility of the software comes from 20% of the functionality, right? 80% of your happiness is going to come from 20% of your network of, friends, family, etc. Right? So it's math. 80% of the watches are owned by 20% of the men, 80% of the shoes are owned by 20% of the women. And by the way, if you've been here a few times, you've heard me say that before. Guess what? Adrian says repeat, 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 repeat. So if I give you a different example every time, I don't think, although it might sound a little bit repetitive, maybe it is. Maybe I'm just not that smart. I'm not a road dog. I can't think very well. But anyways, it's repeat, repeat, repeat. But at the end of the day, it's rooted in math. Right? That's the magic. So the Jumpstart 12, the $213,000 of newfound profits, etc. It's not an opinion. It's not something that I'm hoping might work. It is literally bingo, bango, bongo stuff. Shoots. How'd I do? I got it. That's it, man. That's what Adrian would do working with a landscaping company.
All right, we're gonna close this up. We're gonna button this up with one other question, because if we all know Adrian was the king of scripting. He was the king of outreach, if you will. So why don't you give us, I'm sure you've got this dialed in. If not, he'd be very disappointed in you, Karl. If you were to send a cold email, you got a coaching client, what would you say?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Bring out the shoots. You just told me you'd be disappointed, so I don't want to screw this up, man. That might be a horrific way to end. No, but what would I say? What would Adrian say? So, look, short, sweet, to the point. Adrian was Mr. Just, you know what I mean? Like sweet, to the point. Go for. Although he was a master of messaging, to be fair. But look, what would I do? I would find out somebody's name, okay, before I did it. Okay, so I'm going to call him Bill. Call him Dave. Maybe I got to call him Dave. Hey, Dave. Get Adrian loved, Dangerous Dave, and My Drunk Aunt, etc. But hey, Dave, Karl Bryan here, founder of Focus.com. I know you own XYZ. What are we? Landscaping, right? Landscaping design. And you and I are connected through the local chamber. Dave, I got an idea for you, and I'd love to get your opinion on it. Can you give me a call back? My cell phone is 555-555-5555. I look forward to chatting with you. That's literally what I would say. And very importantly, you follow us, like I've got an idea for you that works magically. And by the way, Shoots, I would send it as an email. I'd send it as a text. I'd send it as a private message on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and anywhere else I could. And I also say connected, so what did I say? I think I dropped the chamber, was it BNI or I said chamber earlier, let's assume, right? I might have said BNI. Okay, I'm not sure. But you can also say we're connected through BNI. We're connected through the yacht club. We're connected through the golf club. We're connected through the local business magazine. If you found the magazine, if you found them at the golf club, guess what? You're connected through the golf club, I guess. Yes, maybe a little bit of a play on words, but look, at the end of the day, what would Adrian say? He would say, get off your you-know-what and go do it. But really, like I said, who you are. Okay. I'm Dave. Um, Actually, no, Dave was the other guy. It was Karl. Okay. But like who you are, who I was, how we are connected. And I have an idea that I want their opinion on, right? Like people love to hear ideas and they love to give their opinion. So guess what? That will work. And what would I do? I would send it out 50 times a day. Adrian would say, look, you send it out once or twice and then gets disappointed when you don't get a response. That is not going to get magical return. But remember, we're looking to 5% bumps in multiple areas. Bingo, bango, bongo. That's the magic, right? I hope that's what I brought across earlier. The magic of Adrian, small incremental changes simultaneously. You get this massive bump. It's rooted in math. Adrian was stoic and again, an engineer by training, right? Systematized to an absolute fault. So again, he would say, look, you got to send it out 50 times a day, right? And if you want to send a message out 50 times a day, guess what? You got to have 50 phone numbers and 50 profiles and 50 people to send it out every day. Guess what? That's bloody hard. So guess what? Get off your butt and do it. Goya. I would also say this shit. So like people tend to give a godlike authority to founders of tech companies. So you're kind of leveraging that with the authority here. By the way, that's why I would invest in a .com domain name, but ain't going to go there. Adrian was not a huge, I can tell you this officially, Adrian was not nearly as excited about domain names as I was. And God bless him. Like that's, not for everybody, and that's cool. But I can tell you that a .com domain name is powerful. So you're not going to say that you're the founder of Focus.com, obviously, but you will be able to say you're the founder of Momentum Academy or you're the founder of XYZ, hopefully.com, right? You don't want to be saying .us. You don't want to be saying .io, I don't think. But I'll leave that one with you. .com, I can tell you officially, has got significantly more power. And by the way, all of our folks have their own online MBA. Guess what? Guess who's scripted and guess whose voice? Actually, Adrian's voice isn't on the MBA. For the most part, it's in some of the videos, but it used to be the whole thing. At the end of the day, it's a business academy on steroids, so they can use that. Momentum Academy, Business Academy, MBA online, etc. So, and then by the way, so what's my idea? I think maybe I gotta. So okay, Karl, you pitched them this idea that you want their opinion on. What is it? Well, guess what? My idea is that I'm running an event, and you should come and meet some other like-minded folks who are also members of the chamber, members of BNI, also advertising on the billboard, on the radio, in the cafe, at the baseball diamond, at the golf club, etc., or who are also playing in the golf tournament, who are also competing in the yacht club, or also own boats or have spots at the marina, right? Or I saw your ad, and there's 3 ways that I can improve it, and I'm happy to do that 100% free of charge to show you my magic. Or I saw your website, and there's 3 things that if you change immediately will make a significant impact, right? So again, it always, remember, if I call somebody and I say, what's your number one problem? It's always going to be one of 4 things. It's going to be sales, it's going to be marketing, it's going to be staffing, it's going to be systems. They won't necessarily use those words, but that's what they're always going to say. So anyways, shoots, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to call them up. That's what I'm going to say. And again, importantly, I'm going to follow Adrian's advice, and I'm not going to do it once. I'm not going to do it twice. I'm going to be, my temperament is going to be my superpower. So when I don't get results on day 1 or day 2 or day 3, am I going to quit? Yeah, I'm human, just like you are. And Road Dogg is, look, we're going to feel frustrated, as would Adrian, right? But guess what he's not going to do? He's not going to quit, right? He might pause, take a little bit of a break, but what he's not going to do is quit, and he's just going to keep doing it, and he's going to keep doing it. But he would also get feedback, and he would use clients, revenue and cash in his bank account as the guiding light. And that's what would dictate him. He wouldn't go by his emotions to decide if it's working well. He would go by his bank account. He would go by hard results. Is it getting me referrals? Is it getting me clients? Is it getting me prospects? Is it getting me phone calls? Is it getting me appointments? Is it getting me joint ventures? Is it getting me cash in the bank account? He'd be using that as a barometer. Again, engineer by training. He's going to math every day and twice on Sunday. Whew. Shoots. That's my answer. How'd I do?
You did great. You held up great, and let's button this up. It is my honor to close this podcast out. Final words? What do you got to say? Anything?
Just a prayer for Adrian would be fabulous. And shoots. That's it. That's a prayer for Adrian and his very, very unbelievable family. That's what I ask. That's it.
Awesome. All right, folks. Well, thanks for tuning into another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. And again, if you're not on the inside getting access to the pre-show, you aren't getting Carl's daily emails, or just want more information on how to build, grow, and scale your coaching company, visit focus.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like and share, as we're also trying to spread the word and help as many coaches as possible. And that is it. I'm going to leave it right there for another week. We will see you on the next episode. Remember, folks, progress equals happiness. And do Carl that favor. Send that prayer to Adrian. Rest in peace, brother. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.